Hello, fellow homebrewers. JP here, and I want to introduce to you the brand new Brewbuilt X1 Conical Series available at More Beer. More Beer sells the highest standard in homebrewing equipment, and the Brewbuilt Conicals are just that. They're made from mirror-polished 304 stainless steel, and they come with loads of features that you and I have been looking for. They have a full 2-inch bottom dump valve, which will eliminate your clogging issues, while the sturdy base includes 4 reinforced legs, just like those big pro tanks do. More Beer also carries the Brewbuilt line of options and add-ons like casters, pressure kits, and even external glycol chillers. So you can find out more about the new Brewbuilt X1 Conical Unitanks by going over to morebeer.com for detailed videos on the entire line of Brewbuilt Conicals. You can trust Brewbuilt with your next fermentation, and you can trust More Beer to find the right conical for you. Brewbuilt at morebeer.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our very special edition of the session, possibly the most special edition ever made, because this is our Tasty Tribute edition from Brewing Network family. And we've got some of our closest, most of our closest Brewing Network family members here today to help us do a Brewing Network style tribute to Tasty. Now, I know that many of you saw the one that we did over the weekend, which was also just a wonderful and fitting tribute, in my opinion, where we brought some of his industry friends in and his very close friends. Jamil was there with us, and we wanted to do that as part of Learn to Homebrew Day. But as many of you have suggested, and I'm sure assumed we were going to do, we wanted a Brewing Network family style tribute to do ourselves. And so that's what you've tuned in for today. And we've got almost all of our current and past hosts with us. Jamil is with us, of course. Teresa Pasuti is here with us. Welcome. The great John Palmer has joined us from his hop field. JP and JP is here. JP and I back together again.
That's right.
On the session. Seems like it's been a very long time since that's happened. Kim Shimke has joined us. Nathan Smith, looking lovely today, has joined us. And of course, Bevo is here. So thanks, everybody, for taking the time to do this for Tasty and for us and for his fans out there today. Doc was also invited, and he's trying to log on, and my assumption is right around 4 minutes before we end the show today, we'll probably see Doc join us.
But it'll be like a shaky cam where you can see like the corners of his room because he's on his phone, probably trying to figure it out, and then they'll just throw across the room and you'll hear it break. We'll hear him first.
Jamil thinks he'll actually be driving. So we'll probably see like a Hummer bouncing along down the freeway and like nothing but lights passing by or something.
I was going to say he'd be at the bar, like holding his phone like this, but not as many of those open right now. So
exactly. If they were open, it would be a safe bet, I think.
He might be around looking for one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the devil.
Yeah, he's trying to get in to log in now, and we'll see if that works out. So, you know, our beloved Tasty was a pretty fun-loving guy, and that's what we're going to do here today. And I don't mind, of course, if anybody has sad and sappy and emotional stories about Tasty. That doesn't bother me. You'll probably make me cry, just like Tasty and I always made each other cry. But we're here to kind of celebrate his life and his time with us, which was really special and was quite a long time. And I don't mean that to say that he was old or anything, but that he stuck around the Brewing Network for years.
He was old.
Giving us his time here.
He was like your original guest who overstayed his welcome, like in the best way. You know? He just never left, you know?
Exactly. When I did, and I told you, I encourage people to go watch the first tribute we did too, because Jamil and I told a couple stories that we won't rehash here, but kind of, I told about how I met Tasty, which was years ago at a homebrew club, and it's a cool story. And he's been my friend ever since, and he'd been a friend of the Brewing Network long before he ever appeared on the shows. And yes, Nate, once Jamil and I finally, and Doc too, actually, Doc worked hard on that, finally got him to be on the shows with us. Yeah, he never left. That was it. He belonged to us.
He was sort of like herding cats in a way, which I think is why him and Chad sort of vibed.
Yeah.
Tasty was like, especially early on in his persona, right, in his career. making that transition from Mike to Tasty, right? Where still shy and bashful, but really wanted to be. He liked the accolades. He liked the attention, because we all do. That's why we're doing this. But it was hard for him to lean into it. And he resisted, I think, a little bit being on the show in those first couple. And going back and doing that supercut that we're going to play later on of all just a bunch of different random audio. I heard a couple of his first, his first appearances on the shows, and how hard we were all trying to get him to stay. And he would have months in between where he would show up. And I think that was him sort of building up his courage or his confidence or what. But once he we're all the same, he never left.
Yeah, he's a very modest guy, very humble guy. And I think he just exemplifies that one guy in your club, that's genuinely interested in what you're doing as a brewer, and listens, and then is happy to share what he's doing. He was always a very thoughtful, listening to you and wanting to learn. So I remember meeting him, what is it, probably nearly 20 years ago now. And I can't remember the exact circumstances, but I know it was a while back.
Probably a strip club, and you guys were probably both stoned.
Could be.
Well, I think they went on after one another. I think Paul went on first, and then Tasty went on.
That's right, it was. Well, you're right that he had to, when he started at the Brewing Network, he wasn't Tasty, and he transitioned into Tasty, and the people and the person that most of you know and love. So we do have a selection of clips that we're going to play for you later, somewhat of a best of. As you can imagine, there are just countless hours of tape to go through. So JP worked really hard and got a few of the best. But I want to start with one of them in particular, because it was a moment late in Tasty's persona where we decided to kind of start giving him some shit about it. And I don't know if you remember, but we used to do a little thing called the Brewing Network Awards every year. And on this particular year, I created a new award. And the award was called the Dedication to Personal Success Award. And well, let me just play you the clip that we played to our audience back then so that they could hear who we gave the award to. Listen along.
Now, the Dedication to Personal Success Award.
That it?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Good job, Push.
No further explanation required there.
No. All right. Now, this is one of those awards that you don't really need nominees for. There's one clear winner. It's like an honor. It's like an honor, like when you get the Lifetime Achievement, they don't do nominees, right? They just, and that is what this is. Let me play the clip, and you'll get the whole idea, and you'll see our very deserving winner of the Dedication to Personal Success Award.
Yeah, you had Vinny's beer there, right? The Janice Brown. You're drinking the Janice Brown, right? It's his Bad Leroy Brown. It's a Janice Brown inspired beer. Eric and I were brewing when we brewed the Janice Brown. Janice Brown. I like it. It's got a little bit of Janice in it. Janice. When the Janice Brown was poured in there, it was kind of unique. And it was dark.
We'll definitely brew the Janice again.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Janice Brown. I'm on a tour here. I call it a mini rollout. Janice Brown. And you get to meet me. It's really good, isn't it? That's the first time the beer has been poured outside the pub. Janice Brown, people that hadn't got to try it yet or that didn't make their way up to Santa Rosa got to try it there. Janice Brown. I'll be at the Trappist next week. I'll let you know when. Janice, the beer that I brewed at Russian River is very, very similar to what I brew. Janice Brown. I'll bring my entourage. Yeah.
Tasty McDole, ladies and gentlemen.
And you get to meet me.
Yeah.
You get to, so I remember, and I think there was a clip right after that where the kind of like giving Mike a hard time continued, and he was just basically like, well, do you think I'm going to stop?
Right. Well, if you stay tuned to the show, I'll play the full clip later as part of the montage that JP created for us. And his acceptance speech is in the full clip. So you do get to hear his reaction. And there's a little bit of that in there. And there's a little bit of like, well, Justin, like he makes more of this than there really is. but he is also clearly kind of admitting like, oh shit, maybe I do have some dedication to personal success.
I'm giving you full warning. I believe Tasty had the right idea. He was on the right path, and I am going to take up the mantle of being the more Tasty-like now. I'm going to take all my efforts and make other people do things for me.
Yeah.
Don't you already do that?
More dedicated to my personal success. One of my favorite stories is back. Tasty and I used to work, some of these events and some of these, the long shot competition. We were doing that together, and a couple other things. And there's a lot of running around. There's a lot of hard work to do. And I remember one time I was like, I gotta do this. I need that. And he's like, oh, no. He goes, look. He goes, watch this. He was like, hey, Randy, get over here. Chad,
oh, yeah.
Get over here.
Yeah.
They came running up, and he's like, I need you to do this, get it done. And they're like, yes, sir. And he ran off. And he turned to me and he goes, how about that, huh? Okay.
Yeah. You do need an entourage, but I'm going to tell you, I don't know how he pulled that off. I mean, it takes a special kind of person. And I don't know what that says about, if it says more about Chad and Randy or about like just the power of Tasty.
It was the power of Tasty. He would have other people do other things for him. And it got to be where I knew if there was something to be done, I just turned to Tasty and go, hey, this needs to be done. And then, he would just have people do it. It was never, if he wanted to go somewhere, he didn't wait in lines. He didn't, go and get his own beer. There was just, a number of things like that. And I want to be more like Tasty.
And that's what, we were able to send him some messages there, thankfully at the end. And that was one thing that sort of rang in my message to him, was that like Tasty was just sort of like unabashedly Tasty, where he didn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
He cared in the way that all of us care about how, people see us and whatever, but he didn't really care because in his pursuit of knowledge, right? So he'd ask a question and he wouldn't be afraid to ask brewers this question, and I put out to all the homebrewers out there too, like, be cool about asking questions, but ask questions. Don't be afraid, because that's how he learned. He learned more from just rapping with these professional brewers, after the show or in between breaks or whatever, than I don't know, than whatever else. But he would go behind the lines. He didn't care.
Yeah.
From the Brewing Network. And and it's very much that like act like you belong there, and you belong there suddenly. No one's going to throw you out. And
he also thought it was funny too. He enjoyed the joke.
Yeah.
It was like, if anybody was seriously offended, I'm sure he would have backed off at any minute, but everybody really seemed to enjoy the Tasty persona and to, be part of it and to, build him up as much as he enjoyed it. He just went along with it. I think we all made him Tasty. I don't think he made himself Tasty. I think we all did. And that's, he was just enjoying it and going along with the joke instead of saying, oh, no. And he tried to say no at the beginning.
He did. And in his defense, he knew that I was never going to let that go. That I was all about characters and personas, and that there was no turning back if he was going to hang around this group. I would never have allowed him to just be Mike McDole again.
I think I remember you saying in a conversation, like after a show or something, and say, you're like it or not, you're Tasty, and you're just gonna have to accept it.
That was Justin's line, like early on, where it's like, one thing I do, I make up nicknames.
So Tasty came from you. You just named him Tasty one day, and that stuck.
Well, so
this is somewhat controversial.
Yeah. And Jamil is adamant that he knows exactly how it happened, and that he even says that it happened on a show because the consensus does seem to be that I gave him the name. And of course, if it's on the show, then it can be found. My recollection was that it was possibly Jamil. And when Jamil tells me his story, I realize how it's a combo and why I thought that, because Jamil was describing well, everything Tasty makes is tasty. His cookies are, everything Mike makes is tasty. His cookies are tasty. His beer is tasty. Yeah. Jamil was going on and on and on with about all the things, and he was right. You know, it's a way people kept talking about is everything he brings you. And so that I guess, according to Jamil, I was like, well, that's it. You're tasty now.
I was there. 100%. Oh, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
And for the listener who goes back and listens to 13,000 hours worth of Brewing Network programming and finds that gem, and tells us you'll win a honorary
Sea-Doo.
Yes. I don't know, man. I spent literally the entire week after he passed digging through archives. I didn't do any other work except that. My brain hurt. Like our shows
tempting to do work. Yes.
They were funny, but man, they hurt. It hurt my brain.
Well, and here's what you're going to find in the clips. You hear an awful lot of me, and I'm thinking about that, and I'm going, well, first of all, I already know I talk a lot, but what it really actually emphasizes, so if you're listening to this later and you're like, well, is this a Tasty tribute or what? What you find is that like Tasty was subtle even on the show. Now, if the topic was his topic or he was asked a direct question, of course he would elaborate. But most of his time on the show, like most of the time in his friendships, was spent with him listening and then just putting out little short, usually fucking hilarious little comments about what was happening. And so you've got to like weed through my bullshit before you get to like the gem that is Tasty in 5 words, you know?
That was the hard part. Yeah. That's why it's 18 and a half minutes. Because
you got to get some context in there.
Yeah,
so
exactly, because you can't have Tasty out of context because you'd send in another dimension. Like your brain would just not function anymore.
Right. But I've said it. Go ahead.
Or the look. He would give you this sideways glance look after you said something.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like, and Justin knows. You've gotten the sideways look every once in a while. It was like you'd say something, and they'd give you this look, like you've either done something horribly wrong, or you're disgusting, or whatever. And then afterwards, he'd tell you, and it'd be like either it was hilarious, or he'd be like, "You shouldn't have done that," or
right. It was usually he thought it was hilarious, especially if it was inappropriate. It was usually he didn't mind at things being inappropriate at all.
He thought it was a little shocking, but it was
he's
like,
there motioning off camera to like keep going.
Yeah. Well, now I want to back up a little bit with JP, in fact, and talking about how much Tasty learned by asking questions and interviewing brewers. And you've known Tasty a lot longer than me. Back in the days, and you'll hear this in the clips later, he used to go to More Beer long before the Brewing Network, like every Friday, and bring in his beer to get feedback from you guys who worked at More Beer. And I just wonder if you can tell us a little bit about that in those days when Tasty was Mike, you know?
Yeah, man, it was most of the time. Well, not most of the time. Some of the time, we the little gruntlings at More Beer would be disappointed when we missed Mike come in the shop, because he would come in, and I think back to his, like, you know, I'm just kind of a shy computer programmer with my plaid shirt tucked into my khakis, right? Like I don't know anything. He'd come in there for Olin, because Olin and him were friends, right?
Okay,
He'd come into Olin to get proper feedback, but in true Tasty form, and this sort of like multiplied like the blob, right? It just got bigger and bigger exponentially. He would share his homebrew with anybody who was, you know, who happened to be around. So especially if you worked there, well, you got to taste a little bit of this beer. And I remember the beer, you know, at the time for me being good. And I think I've mentioned it before, where you could sort of pick out his house flavor, right? And that was back in the days when I thought that was like a noble thing or something to strive for, some sort of commercial thing that you can translate into homebrewing, where, oh, does he have a house flavor? I know this beer is yours. And it was
the dog hair.
It was bubble gum.
It was the dog.
Yeah, it was just like hubba bubba, incorrect fermentation or whatever. But what I do remember is the hop flavors were always there. Like he always had a really good sort of palate for how much hops to add. And he was very, very good at that. And like Palmer's saying, he always wanted to learn more. He didn't really say a whole lot, and that continued on, but he brought his beer in all the time and took feedback and actually went and made changes. And, it was very, so he wasn't, I wouldn't say he's hard to get to know, but I think he was just really shy. I mean, and especially what he was, going through at the time with his wife and everything. And it's just, it was really nice to see Mike come through the door. Friday, 3:00, 4:30, whatever. Here comes Mike with a keg of beer, and we're all just hanging out. And it was nice. It was really cool. And that's sort of the vibe you get from a local homebrew shop anyway. So, aside was really fun. But Mike had a special touch to it because he definitely cared. He cared.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a fly-by-night. Well, what do you think? Can I do this? It was, no, really, what kind of malts? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about this in depth.
Sure.
And he's obviously like a really social guy. I mean, that goes without saying. But on top of that, like he also wanted to figure out how to network. And he's always been a really good guy at networking with people anyways. So when he was doing that in homebrewing, I think in that example, Jason, like he was just like, okay, I want to get better. And I want to get to know everybody inside homebrewing. But in true Mike McDole form, he wasn't just going to charge in and like pretend he knew everybody and knew everything. He wanted to do it his own way, which was like getting to know everybody and like make a presence and like be super consistent. Like you were saying, he'd show up every Friday. Like he probably had it on his calendar, if not written down, like in his head. Like I just go and do this now. This is what I do. He's like very methodical that way. Like this is how he gets a result.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Well, and it worked because by the time I met him, which was years later, I'd never had anything that wasn't tasty from Tasty. I mean, his beer was just if I think about the best homebrewers I know, it's Tasty and Jamil. I mean, you guys always just, by the time I met you, you guys had been through, JP, you guys had been through that, question asking phase. Not that you ever stopped learning. I don't mean that, but the basic mistakes were gone from your homebrewing, by the time I met you guys.
Well, it's interesting, man. If you look at, it's a documented phenomenon. But if you look at that statement, the two best homebrewers are Tasty and Jamil. Look at their backgrounds, right? Engineering, computer programming, whatever. Same thing with Palmer, right? Like that's that analytical mind that is really intent on, I want to learn how to do this and get better and improve my final product. And even back then, how many homebrewers have you had that are so good but taste like bubble gum? Generally, that's a flavor that you go, this sucks. I don't want this anymore. But his beer was still good, even though it tasted like bubble gum.
Yeah.
So already he had a head for recipe.
It's true. Yeah. Well, I want to welcome a special guest today. And it's the only person I invited to today's show outside of the Brewing Network host family, because he's been part of our shows. He's been part of the Brewing Network experience. He's a good friend to most of us here. And he was also a good friend to Tasty. So I wanted to invite Jeremy Marshall from Lagunitas to come on and share some stories with us too. Welcome, Jeremy. Appreciate you being here.
How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you just great. Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God. Technology is working. I dare say that's the ghost of Tasty right there.
Well, Tasty doesn't want Doc here then, because that little blank screen next to you, he's not fixing his technology for him.
Well, I'll save the Doc stories for later, but we got plenty of those too. But
yeah, we'll wait for that memorial.
I got a few Tasty stories, but I just got to start with you've met a profound person when the first thing that you notice is that both their beer and their marketing is better than any legitimate brewing company in the country, let alone the world.
Right.
I mean, the man came with just the most incredible marketing. And then the Tasty treats, for which the recipe, I'm sure that's up on the internet somewhere, but we've all got it. The legendary Tasty treats was a ancillary agent that went and boosted the marketing to a whole new level of the ensuing and now official marriage, thanks to a brewery in Atlanta that we won't mention, but the official marriage of weed and beer is here, right?
Sure.
We all knew it was going to happen. And of course, I've been a big proponent of it as well. But God, the tasty stories, there's just too many. The first of which was when I know somebody whose grandma got a handful of tasty treats and just thought that they were amazing ginger snaps with some weird dude's face on there, and she ate like 15 of them. And
rest in peace, Grandma.
And just thought they were, and just thought that they were just the most delicious ginger snaps ever. I don't know what she thought about a couple hours later, but
I mean, a couple hours later, the world was exploding.
We're going to see her enter the atmosphere in Elon Musk's Tesla. Trying to get back to Mars right now.
The same mistake happened with one of my dogs, too. I left my roommate at the time, Chad, to watch my, luckily, 150-pound Labrador. So he had a little weight to him to manage the sleeve of cookies that he found on my kitchen counter, I guess.
Is this why Chad is in Texas now? Is this why? Is that what happens to someone when that happens?
Yeah, when it happens more than once, you got to get out of the state.
Oh man.
Now, Jeremy, you might have just opened yourself up to a little bit of bombardment from our fans, because I didn't know that Tasty's cookie recipe is out there. You might be besides his family, you might be one of the only ones who has it.
I have it.
I have it, and it shall be up to the trusted Tasty estate whether or not we shall consider sharing that. But
right. You have it
is written.
Okay.
It's written like all things Tasty. Anyone can understand it, and anyone can do it. And let's just say that if there's one thing, well, there's many things we can say about the man, the legend, but the other thing is he would show up to beer festivals with a backpack full of draft beer that was often better than any commercial brewery's beer that was at said festival, and just put everyone to shame. I must note that his beers tended to be very, very bright. So this is I know how to brew in New England, so I am God's gift to brewing, that phenomenon.
No, back then you were more of a gift if you could, especially if your homebrew was like crystal clear. We would do whole shows on that with him and with Doc.
And he knew how to do it. And in fact, even on those last few months there, we had some great dialogues on which filter from more beer I should buy if I wanted to achieve the same great results on the small scale. He had a lot to say, but I'm thinking of one really fun Tasty story is, I don't remember what year that was, but I saw Nate there earlier, and it was the year that he won the Can You Brew It Hop Stupid Challenge. And his clone was one of the, it was probably the best. It was the winner. And I got to gallivant around the crowd. And this was when the home brewing conference was in Seattle, I want to say, maybe a suburb. Bellevue rings a bell.
That's right.
And I got to walk the floor with Tasty and watch as he is approached with godlike status. And it wasn't just the home brewers and all of the crowd and how much they regarded him and how much they come to him. It was how he kind of wanted me to kind of pal around with him. And it was more fun to look at Tasty's little twinkle, the little twinkle in his eye as home brewer after home brewer would come up, and he would just give them the best suggestions, the best tips. You know, it wasn't just dry hop all your problems away. 3 pounds per barrel Citra, fix any flaw. What do you got there? DMS, 3 pounds per barrel Citra. What do you got there? Diacetyl, 3 pounds per barrel Citra. What do you got there? Oh, a little bit of hint of ass, 4 pounds per barrel Citra. He would offer real insight into how to fix the problem. He would go over all kinds of, things that maybe the homebrewer hadn't considered that were actually relevant, such as, did you check the expiration date of your smack pack? Or maybe you're not using a smack pack, or maybe you are using one and you forgot to smack it. You name it. Life was simple in those home brewing days because we didn't have a lot of choices. But dare I say, some of my best, fondest memories of Tasty were when we would do some promos down in, I want to say like maybe Beer Rev or somewhere down in the city, Oakland, SF area. And all of the beer crowd would clear out. And then the next crowd would kind of come in. And I remember distinctly, you could always tell when the beer event was over, when the room would fill with young, attractive ladies. That meant that it was time for the next event. And I remember this happening in Tasty very confidently going up to a group of young girls that I would not have the confidence to go up to and just drop in one of these. So, any of you girls homebrew?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hottest line ever.
God. It was amazing. It was amazing. And the magic is, some of them would be scared, but one of them would say, well, you know what? My brother homebrews. Yeah. And then boom, off to the races. We're having a real conversation, and it is the man in his element.
That's funny. I like you bringing up that when he sort of wanted to gallivant around with you at the Homebrew Conference. And Mitch Steele was on our previous tribute where he talked about the same thing and Tasty really showing him around. And it kind of goes to show about his humbleness, too, because as much as he did enjoy that and have that twinkle in his eye, he really did. He felt like, well, why would you be talking to me when Jeremy Marshall is right here? And that was part of it when he would drag people around with him. And I would hear him do it even. He would do it with John Palmer. He would do it with Jamil. He would do it with you. He did it with Mitch. The people would come up and just want to take pictures and stuff. And he'd be like, yeah, but this is Jeremy. He's the guy from Lagunitas. I'm just the homebrew idiot. And he really had that humbleness. He embraced it more as the years went on, knowing that, well, if he could just give more information, that's what the people were looking for anyway. So
Absolutely. I'd like to think that because that man walked the earth, I know my beers are better, but more importantly, there are thousands of people out there who are drinking better beer because of him.
Yeah.
And I know that that's at the end of the day, that would make him happy because it sure as hell makes me happy.
Yes, you're right. And I think that to him is a passing of the torch also, because as we were talking about just before you jumped on here, he went through that period and for years, he was a home brewer for, I think 15 years before I ever met him, maybe more. And he went through that phase himself where he had to learn how to make better beer. And he did that by asking people and getting information. So I do think I'm learning more about him now than I ever did before, as sometimes happens when these things happen. And one of those things is just how hungry he was for information. And he just would always ask, and then listen, and go put it back into his beer.
Well, and when he didn't know the answer to something, when somebody would come up and ask him a question, he would turn that person, he would make the connect for that person with some person who did know the answer, some pro brewer or something. Just like, let me, get you together with Vinny to answer that question.
Yeah.
Exactly, Jamil. Not just because he liked to talk technical stuff, but he wanted to also help other people network to get the information they want.
Sure.
And to get the right answer.
Plus, it's also cool. Yeah. There's a cool factor of like, well, just hook you up with Vinny, it'd be fine. I think he took pleasure in that too, like connecting a home brewer who he knows that this person's mind is going to be absolutely fucking blown.
Yeah.
By asking Vinny a question, like,
right,
sort of pierce the veil in that way, because, like you guys were saying, he's a home brewer.
He enjoyed piercing the veil, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
and that's why that worked so well at those events.
Yeah.
Like at NHC or like GABF or something, like he would just be like, well, come over here, let's go talk to him, right? And then he'd bring you over, and then you would go, you'd sure enough to be talking to Vinny 10 minutes later or somebody like this, right? Like, he loved doing that.
Yeah. I want to bring up something else about him, and I had kind of noticed this in all the years I'd known him, but didn't really put it together until I was reading through many of the comments on Facebook, on the different posts that we've made. And a consistent theme I heard people post was that Tasty also remembered everybody's name. After one 30-second meeting, he would see people at an event a year later and go, "Oh, hey, Paul, nice to see you again." And it really touched his fans, which he also likes to do. It really it made an impression on people. And I didn't put it together until I started reading that. And I was like, holy shit, he really did do that. And that was also part of his charm in the sense that he really gave a shit about everybody he met. It was really important to him that they knew he was really taking his time to say hello, shake their hand, and talk to them. It wasn't like oh yeah, cool, I'm Tasty, I'll see you later. You know.
That's why it's so difficult for me to do the Tasty thing. I really don't care.
I don't even like my
y'all don't mean anything to me.
I can't remember names.
There's somebody else that shared that eerie trait that you just reminded me of. And I don't know if any of you guys ever got to meet Byron Birch, or if you guys know who that.
Yeah, one of our favorite dudes.
Yeah, he shared that same trait. He could meet. He only met me one time, and I didn't see him for years. And then he knew my name later. And when he met me, I was just a cellar dweller. I was a peon. I was just pulling some hose. And I mean that inside a brewery setting.
Yes, of course.
Tasty love pulling hose too.
Yeah.
I mean, both. They're not mutually exclusive.
Hi, Doc. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks.
Good to see you, Doc.
I think Doc went out and bought a new iPad in the time that we started the show.
Okay. I went through 2 laptops, and now I put it on the iPad. So, there you go.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, Doc. Goatee.
How you doing?
Like his brother.
He does. He looks like his brother, Big Tim.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Well, Doc, we're just telling stories about Tasty, and you're another one who's known him a lot longer than I have. When I met him, you were the president of his homebrew club, Doe's.
Yeah.
And in fact, I want to just take a quick aside to let you know a bunch of Doe's members have gone pro over the years. Mm-hmm. And on Friday, I went down to Ghost Town Brewing in Oakland, and Ghost Town had invited a bunch of those pro brewers who came from his homebrew club that Tasty had an impact on. And they all did a collaboration beer together that'll be released in another couple weeks here. And they called the beer Fifth Floor, which if you knew Tasty around this area, if you ever met Tasty at the Hop Grenade, and Jeremy, you definitely would have done this. He would eventually, once he got to know you, invite you to the 5th floor of the parking garage so that you could smoke one down or try some homebrew of his out of the back of his car. So anyhow, all those Doe's members that had gone pro got together and brewed this beer, and I'll let you know about it here on the Brewing Network, and we'll be serving it at each of those breweries and at the Hop Grenade. I just thought that a perfectly fitting tribute of these home brewers who grew up with Tasty and from Tasty gone pro doing that tribute. But Doc, you were the president of Doe's back when I met Tasty and when I met you. And he was already one of your most prolific homebrewers by then, right?
Oh, yeah. He was every meeting. He's there. He'd get there early so he could talk to people and, just shoot the shit with everybody, patting them on the back and just talk about, and he'd always want to know about their homebrew.
Yeah.
And he one time, met him many times, he says, kind of takes me to the side. He says, we got some great home brewers here. We got to get these guys out in competitions and get them doing this because they don't even know that they're this good. There's some good beers in this club. And he would go around each one of them and pretty much encourage them to get their stuff out there. Don't think you guys are just such a beginner. And he was really good about doing that. He gave everybody a lot of confidence in what they were doing. He had no qualms about that.
Yeah. Now that he was very encouraging. I said that in several times now since his passing, is how encouraging he was of others. And I told the story of how I met him at your homebrew club meeting there. And in that particular meeting, I was there to pitch this idea of the Brewing Network. And pretty much everybody there thought I was crazy. But the time I saw Tasty, he's the only one who said, I think this is a really good idea, man. I think you should do this. And he became one of my biggest cheerleaders through my whole career from that moment forward.
Picture them in a cheerleading.
I met Doc and Tasty right around the same time.
Okay.
It was at More Beer, and it was Olin or Chris that introduced us. And I remember, they introduced me to Tasty, and we kind of hit it off. We started talking, and he was asking me about my beer, and I was asking about his, and we were sharing brewing ideas and thoughts and techniques, and we would spend a lot of those meetings off in one corner, just kind of tasting beer and talking and trying to, improve our beer. Yeah. And I got introduced to Doc about the same time, same way, through Olin or Chris. And Doc pretty much was just like, nah, I don't. He pretty much just walked off and had no time for me. Yes, you did.
Not.
You didn't want to hear about anything from me, my beer. You were just like, nah.
I'll go hang out with nerds. Sorry.
Yeah.
I love you, Doc. You're a wonderful human being, and I just love you. I love you to death. But that was just the funniest thing. And that's the difference between Doc and Tasty.
Doc was like that, dude. Jamil's totally right. He's 100% right. The only reason Doc became my friend is because I invited him on the show first. I was like, you're my guy. You're going to do this show with me. And then we became friends.
You got to prove yourself to Doc.
You do have to prove yourself. Yeah.
I will tell it. You're a memorial, Doc. Is that you had to prove yourself to you. You didn't just accept any wanker as being worthy. You had to show that you were worthy of spending Doc's time. So
luckily for us, Tasty's filter was really low. So now I want to talk to Kim Shimke a little bit about her relationship with Tasty, because like so many others, Tasty sort of introduced people to others, and things would fall into place for them. They would start brewing careers, all sorts of things. And Kim Shimke ended up with the very lucrative position of being the Brewing Network's social media manager through Tasty also, right, Kim?
That's true, yeah. But before we get to that, I remember one of the first times I met Tasty, and what he said to me was, "You've probably heard of me before." And I'm like, he can't be real. Like, no, that's not something that someone would actually do. You can't be real. I had spotted him like a few other, he was always at events, and I was at a lot of events back then, years ago. And yeah, he at some point he came up to me or was introduced to me. I don't even really remember. But when he introduced himself, that was his opening line to me. And I was just kind of like, either this is a joke, or I couldn't really tell because I didn't know him yet. But I thought he was ridiculous. Yeah. Because that was the first thing I was going off of. But then I just kept seeing him around. And then, as you said, he remembered people, after just meeting them one time. And so he kept coming up to me. And then I was like, actually, he seems like a really nice person. And then he started following some of the stuff that I was doing, like blogging back then. And he recommended me to you, I believe it was. Yeah. And then you and I met. But you all have Tasty to thank for knowing me and having me enrich your lives. So JP, especially you, because I know we're the best of friends of the group. So I think it was really cool. And he had like a Rolodex in his brain, where he would just, if he wanted to give someone an opportunity, he would just go through the people in his head and be like, oh, I think this would be a good person. So not only did he like to be a part of networking himself, but he really opened those doors to other people also. Yeah. So I think that's really cool.
He wanted everybody to succeed and be successful and happy and be the best that they could be. Yeah. I think that's what his kids will tell you too.
Sure. Yeah.
And so he would always, he would text me and check in with me during, whatever it was that I was going through in my life, serious text messages and being like, hey, this must have been really hard for you. Hope you're doing okay. If you need someone to talk to, I'm around. And so he did have this persona. And I think that's the part of me that's still okay, it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's just that though. It's just a persona, and who he is his core is just a good human being. And I think that's a lot of people that don't know him well, that just know the persona that is Tasty. It's like, it's, you know one side of him, but if you actually knew his heart, like he has a really good heart. And
sure,
that's the part that's most upsetting to me, that you don't have that anymore.
Of course. And, I want to talk about that persona a little bit and call myself out on it a little bit, because at the peak of Tasty's popularity, I was getting a little fed up with the Tasty show. And there were certain things that made that happen. And some of it was like, whenever I would see him, he would talk about his popularity in the sense of saying, I went to this event and can you believe that this happened? And I went to here and can you believe that this happened? And after a little while, I just started interpreting that like I really created an animal here. I created a monster. But in hindsight, and the more I learn about his relationships and about him, I actually think I misinterpreted that a little, in the sense that when he was saying, can you believe this happened? I interpreted that as like, oh, I got to hear another story about how popular Tasty is. But really, he was not asking me a rhetorical question. He was also in disbelief all of that time that he was so popular. He was in disbelief that he could become so famous through the Brewing Network. He genuinely was saying, can you believe that this thing happened? And he was saying it often enough that I misinterpreted it. I was like, oh, with this guy, with this persona. And I really think I kind of had it wrong. I think he was in awe of it.
Like I said, he was going along with the joke.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. He would also, exactly, Jamil. He would look at the cartoon character in that persona and say like, well, that's just my alter ego. Like that's my evil twin, so to speak, right?
That's right.
Hashtag.
Hashtag evil twin.
Exactly. Like the Brewing Network, I don't think has ever or will ever have a cheerleader, like you said, as big as Tasty. Any picture you find of that man, he's wearing a Brewing Network t-shirt all day.
Right.
I think that's all he owned.
Yeah, that and Heretic, I think.
And he would, I mean, before every event, I'd get an email from him requesting 4 shirts, the same 4 shirts that I had sent him, the past 5 years.
Yes.
Just new ones.
Yeah. And you know what? So that's an excellent point. And so I was honored and lucky enough to go to his family memorial service, and they were running a slideshow. And you're not wrong. In 99.5% of those slides, he's in a Hop Grenade shirt. And I'm not going to lie, that alone made me lose my shit. Like it just reminded me of how subtly and not so subtly he has been a champion of this network, of my career, and of anybody. The only other shirts he was in were Heretic shirts. He just supported like nobody's business.
He was your biggest fan. He was all of our biggest fans. For everybody he met, he was your biggest fan.
Yeah.
Don't ever doubt that.
It's true.
And there's brewers, some that you already know, some that you don't know yet, that have just attributed almost all of their success to him. Teresa. Oh, well, let's hear that. And I just want to mention the one I went reading a post from Win Weisenhunt. Does that have Win's last name?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry if I messed that up, Win. And I remember Tasty taking Win under his belt probably before Win was illegal to drink, and not taking him drinking, but teaching him to brew. And he's
Heretic.
Okay. And he's about to open his own brewery, and his testimony to Tasty was very touching. And that's the kind of impact he had on people's entire career in some instances. And so, Teresa, tell us about your experience.
Well, so you guys know that I'm late to the game, and, you all had your Brewing Network lives, and I was a consumer of this. And so before I ever opened a brewery, I always knew Tasty through, the shows with Jamil and Brewing with Style and The Session. And so I was definitely one of those people that whenever I saw him, it was like, I was starstruck. And in retrospect, it's so funny to think that people would be starstruck by him, but I totally was. So the very first brew fest I ever poured at was the Summit Brew Fest in Sacramento in 2016. And Tasty came up and he's like, I hear your Kolsch is super great. And I was just like, oh my God, it's Tasty. Oh my God.
Nice.
So I poured him a beer and we took a picture and I was like, tell me about my beer, and it was amazing. Like I'm not sure I've felt that way before or since, like to have someone come and taste my beer. And it was so important to me that they liked it.
Yeah.
It was just like my hero coming to be on the same level with me. And like having got to know him more since then, like I understand who he is and how that's not an outlier for him.
Right.
But for me, it was such a big deal. It was
so
huge.
Cool. Yeah. Well, and again, he just very much was like that. Now, Bevo and I and JP too, Doc, in thinking about it, we probably spent more hours with Tasty than any other human if you count the time that he became a full-time co-host of the session. Now, there's plenty of other people who spent more of their lives with him outside of this studio or all of our studios. But if you were to add up all that time, we just really spent a lot of hours with Tasty. And you learn different things about people in those environments too, because believe it or not, this is work for us. And there's some ways that we treat it like work. And Tasty was very, very, very committed to this work. And I think I've told this story publicly already, but it just worth telling again. Tasty was never late to shows. He never missed shows without a ton of advance notice. You knew if he was missing at Christmas, you knew at June. If we said you got to show up early to a show, he showed up early. But on the day that he found out he got sick was a Monday. It was a show. And that motherfucker called Bevo. He got the news and he took the time to call Bevo and say, what were his words? Things went south.
It was. I thought I was just running late, but I'm at a doctor's appointment and things went south. I'm not going to make it. That was it. It was a text actually, and I was like, I just texted back. I'm like, okay, are you all right? Like,
yeah. And in the 2 years, I think it's been about 2 years since we got that information. I've thought about that a ton. There's not many people that would have made that phone call. I wouldn't have made that phone call. I got bigger fish to fry at this point. But that's the kind of stuff, he just was a very dedicated individual. And there's something to be said for that in work and in life. And I just wanted to bring it up because his impact here is obviously massive, but his dedication to things and to people is like, it's an example, is maybe what I'm really trying to say. He was an example for me in that sense that, but what a tough thing to do, right? On the day that you found out he had brain cancer that day and that they were very, very quickly going to go in and remove that it was not something that could wait. And he is like, okay, hang on a sec. I got to make a phone call to my friends at the Brewing Network.
But think about that in terms of
you and had the dedication.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was that important to him,
Yeah. Well, here's a quick cheers to here. We'll do a big one later, but a quick toast, quick cheers to Tasty. I'm drinking your Janet's Brown, Tasty. There we go.
Yeah, how is that?
It's tasting great. I owe you a growler, don't I, Doc?
Yeah, you do.
I heard you had a COVID scare, though. I didn't want to deliver it.
Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, not really.
A fake COVID scare. Yeah, I owe you a growler. If anybody wants Janet's, let me know. I also want to mention on that note, several brewers have reached out to me. Jeremy's been reaching out to me since the day this happened, and I've just been MIA until today. I finally got back to Jeremy. But other brewers have been calling, and I just a quick shout out and just more to show also how important he was to people that they go out of their way to do things. Creature Comforts sent us, all of us, a case of beer and a very kind card with their condolences about Tasty. They're from Georgia. They came and did the show once. Yeah. But they're fans, and they felt moved enough to send us beer. So I have beer to disseminate to y'all, and some Janets to get to you as well. And I just thought that was a lovely thing. And one of the things that they pointed out is when they came to do that show, they came in at the weekend for a Monday show, and Tasty took his Sunday to drive them all around the Bay like he does, where he, when he cares about someone and doesn't just want them to be here. JP and I are like, cool, yeah, show up at 6, man, do the show, and then we'll see you later. That was not Tasty.
You should go on your own while I'm at home.
Yeah, and Tasty would get their contact info and say, hey, I hear you're coming to do the show. You want me to take you around to all my favorite places or what? And again, what a cool thing to do. And he made a lot of friends because of that sort of behavior.
He also consistently tried to be at the studio early on nights that he knew we had an in-studio guest to hang out with them and drink with them and talk with them beforehand.
Yeah.
That's true. He'd let me take him afterward, but he'd show up early when they were still coherent and like willing to have a nice conversation.
That's when he
get cookies in. It was a whole different story.
Yeah. Well, and once news broke of his passing, I personally got a lot of messages from listeners, offering condolences, and maybe everybody else did too. But it was really sort of touching. Like I appreciate it, but it was like, for everybody at the Brewing Network, I'm really sorry to hear about your friend. And not that I didn't think of Tasty as a friend, but it's hard because we didn't hang out outside of work.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, oh, well, there's Tasty, but when other people put the friend tag on, it takes the work aspect out of it and sort of makes you remember the man, not the persona, like you're saying on the air. You know what I mean? Right. It's easy for everybody to think of Tasty as all the little sound bits that you hear on the radio.
Yeah.
But as we're describing tonight, it's so much more than that. He's so much more impactful, whether he knew it or not. I mean, knowing Tasty, he probably knew it. He probably knew exactly how much. But
yeah,
it was just really nice. There was a lot of outpouring of emotion, and it was I don't know. It's still kind of weird, to be honest.
Well,
he is a sweet, loving man who would have done anything for you, given the shirt off your back, off his back or whatever.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm most proud of about this show, about the Brewing Network, is that everybody, our hardcore listeners feel like we're friends. They feel like they're hanging out with their friends when they're hanging out with us on the podcast. I'm really proud of that. It was something. It was a goal. It's a key to our success, and so it doesn't surprise me one bit. When that's the feeling that his fans have. Not even to us. I'm sorry that you've lost your friend, but I'm sorry that they lost their friend too. Because he definitely was a loved character on this show. That people would just write in how hilarious he was. Not just how much he helped their brewing, but that he just cracked them up. Stuff I would have to go back and listen to because I was already on to the next topic when he was like sliding in a one-liner that that went right over my head.
Especially in the
Doc and JP
hour.
On either side of me cracking up as I'm moving on that I'd have to go back and listen to,
Yeah, he'd really put those in like during the meltdown hour. Like you'd go back and listen to it later, probably editing, like doing the tight edits and be like, wait, what was that he said?
Right. But the other thing he would do,
completely get the joke on a new level
for the interviews is, and this used to drive me crazy too. And again, in hindsight, he just was right. Once he got more confident in here, he would move us along. He would not let me just ramble. He'd be like, so back to that IPA you were just about to ask about, Justin. And at the time I'd be like, fuck you. This is my show. I'll do whatever I want. He was right every time.
Yeah, task.
Yeah, and it's like a couple of times, and I've been thinking about this too, reflecting on it for the past couple of weeks. And when you're on the show, at least when you have brain worms like I do or did or still do, whatever, it's you definitely want to like portray something either that you're not or like sort of hyper focus on a person, a spot of your personality to like make people laugh or whatever. And that was definitely my shtick. And, there were times when Tasty and I butted heads. And you sort of like think about it afterwards, especially, and unfortunately, it takes times like this to sort of reflect on that. And it's like, why? There's no reason. Like Tasty was.
Why were you such a dick? That's what everyone's asking. Let's just throw that out there. No.
And it's like you just sort of realize that, like, it doesn't take. You don't need to be like aggressive in that way to be funny or to be something you're not. And I keep going back to that because it's sort of my message. My message to Tasty was like, you were always Cool Breeze McDole. Like, you were always. Now I'm getting choked up. You were always just yourself, really. Yeah. I mean, in different variations, right? Of Tasty or McDole, but it was still basically 90% who he was all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's I missed out on embracing that for those moments that I didn't.
Yeah. We all missed out on some of that, and that is what happens with these things. I'm glad you said that, and he understood you. I'll tell you that. Tasty understood everybody. Tasty never said a whole lot to me about, like, guidance wise and help wise. And you know why? I know why. He knows I wasn't really fucking listening. And he probably could have given me a ton of advice that would have been helpful, but he knew each and every one of us and where his time was valued and useful and spent. And I know that's exactly why I didn't get all the advice from Tasty that some of you have. Jamil, I'm spot on.
You're spot on. Yeah.
I know this guy. And so he knew you too, JP. I just want you to know that. Hi, Nicole. I see Nicole has jumped on here too. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi. It's very nice to see you. Oh, rocking the Brewing Network stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Tasty was a big fan of yours. I'm glad you're popping in your head in here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss him.
Yeah. We're all going to. There's all going to be several of those moments that really hit us, at different times. Jeremy, I think he's probably been to your brewery more than most any brewery, maybe other than Russian River. Lagunitas and Russian River were like his home, I think, his second home.
We're on the same circuit, and we always kind of we shared him appropriately. And,
yeah.
Tasty is like I always felt like he was possibly leading a dual life as a superhero, because is it just me, or one reason why we are all completely shocked and maybe not at odds with this, because I think a lot of us aren't really, this hasn't sunken in, is I was pretty sure he was about 52 years old, or, he was, there was something there that I was like, no. This we've got at least 20 to 30 more years of Tasty, or I will be gone and he will continue. Was right. That not,
I thought he and I were born at the same time, born twins from possibly different mothers. I don't know, but we were.
So that's actually cool, Jeremy. Like, I realize now, in knowing him since 2008, I never asked him his age.
Oh, we've asked him. He wouldn't answer.
And it never came up, and he would never answer. Exactly. He'd never answer on the show, and I never asked him off air, and it almost became elusive in the best way.
He was really private about, certain aspects of his life.
Exactly.
About Janet, about personal things. One of the things, one time I tried on his hat, and it was giant. I don't have a small head. It was floating on me. I'm just like, and he, was embarrassed in a way. And I said, no. I said, look, you got a big head, giant brain, giant heart. I said, yeah, it all fits together.
Yeah.
And, he appreciated that, but, he was very, he was very sensitive about, a number of things. And
he was,
the things that would, really choke him up, his family was one of the most important things.
Yes.
And I think he considered us all, his extended family as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big heart stuff. He also wore his heart on his sleeve, even though he was private about certain things. You knew that he was not embarrassed about being emotional. Happened all the time in the studio. Bevo, you've seen him and I tear up who knows how many times in here over nothing, over like somebody's dog walking by with a limp. We'd be like, oh my God, that dog looks like it's in pain.
I feel like I listened to you guys commiserate over that Sarah McLachlan dog with no eye commercial. Like,
we like can't watch it.
Like honestly, the ASPCA commercial.
Yes, more than once. And it, like every time there were tears. Every time.
So now I want to talk about his age for a second and bring up possibly an elephant in the Brewing Network's room, because Jeremy, I had a somewhat different experience. I always thought he was 125 years old, but that he just somehow had more energy and life than I ever had. I don't know how he did it, but that guy was out every night and he would go on promotional tours of Janet's Brown, and like he had way more energy than me. And I thought he was very, very old and he would never answer the question. And so I feel like we'd be fake if we didn't bring up, the Brewing Network's always had a death pool. It's something that we've joked about internally on this show time and again. Tasty wasn't always the most comfortable with the death pool, by the way. The last time we did a vote,
you're all dying before me.
The last time we did a vote, I won the death pool. Our listeners and a doctor that we brought in had decided I was definitely most likely to croak. And it's sad to me that I don't get to keep my title. I wish that Tasty could have been the next in line. I don't know what.
That's the one you felt like you earned. The one that felt like the one you earned, Justin. You didn't want to, just let that one go.
I finally earned a victory in this goddamn studio, and Tasty took it away from me, and I'm a little pissed off about that. But
well, actually, I think if you remember correctly, I don't think Casey filled out that questionnaire because I think he was uncomfortable. So really, people who took the questionnaire, you're still number one, bro.
I'm still number one. Yeah, I'm like number one twice.
Casey did. He was uncomfortable with that, especially because it made it too real, and with his wife passing and.
Well, and I want to say, at least my impression, I don't think he was uncomfortable with it because he thought he was first in line. I think he was uncomfortable with it because he felt sad thinking about losing any of us. I really think that was his deal. Whereas JP and I deal with sadness by making fun of each other and everybody around us. Tasty's not like that. And so I think that was his discomfort. And maybe in Tasty's honor, we'll eliminate the death pool. I haven't decided yet. We're doing a lot of things in Tasty's honor. I personally really love the death pool because I think it's fucked up.
I look forward to being on the session more, when each of you dies.
It's this weird twisted
only one left at the end.
It's this weird twisted element. You have to keep it. Exactly.
Exactly.
I'm still you have to keep it, Justin. It's true.
What I am doing here at the Hop Grenade is Tasty is getting a dedicated line on our draft system. So first, for the next several months, as brewers from all over are brewing tribute beers to Tasty, we'll put each and every one of them, as long as it's good, because Tasty also was a stickler about beer being good.
And he would tell you if it wasn't up to snuff.
But we're going to put the tribute beers on that line first. It's Tasty's dedicated line. And I think as time goes on, I think it's going to remain Tasty's dedicated line. And I'm going to sit down with some of you and come up with some guidelines of a Tasty approved beer. So not just any beer goes on that line. It has to be Tasty approved. And I feel like maybe we can carry on his legacy by choosing things that he would have chosen. I know that you'll have some great input on that, Jamil, JP, Doc. I feel like we can come up with some guidelines of what's a Tasty approved beer. And that's all that goes on that line. You can't be some new brewer come in here and be like, well, why can't I go on tap 17? Because you're not Tasty approved.
That's right. And we're talking fucking hazy. We're talking hard seltzer. We're talking kombucha. 100% always on that.
Jamel, what do you think? It's a good idea, right? Like a good way to carry on the legacy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think JP's got it nailed. I think he knows exactly what it would be.
Yeah.
I'm for hire as a consultant. Whatever you guys, you're building a tap.
And it would probably be no beers that JP would drink. So
right, yeah, that's true. They're going to be very happy.
Yeah.
The thing about my mental illness is I know that, and I can still look. I drink your beer for God's sakes. I can still know what is.
I love your mental illness.
I just don't drink it.
Yeah, IPAs, session IPAs. You know, Jeremy, you shared a lot of beer with Tasty. You know his style.
Oh yeah. Definitely no booch, no seltzer, no hazy, and no freaking glamour boy hops. I mean, let's take it back to when brewers had to know how to brew without the auto tune.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, he hated wet hops. He hated wet hop.
Oh, that's right. You're right, Doc. He wasn't a fan of wet hops. You know what I need to find? So this is selfishly my favorite beer of his. I mentioned this to Jamil was actually his Dortmunder. Doc, you remember that Dortmunder?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I want to put a Dortmunder on there, but it was so good, Jay-Z. I got to find a craft beer Dortmunder that was that goddamn good.
The funny thing was he brewed it as a Northern German or a Bavarian German or something like that. And we were upstairs at More Beer, and he was like, "You need to taste all these beers and tell me what to enter them in the national competition." Because he's like, "You win, you need to tell me." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm tasting them. I'm like, "This is more a Dortmunder." I'm like, "Enter it as a Dortmunder." He's like, "Okay." And there was something else. It was a Dortmunder with peach, I think.
Yep.
And I told him it's like, it was like way over peached or under peach. I'm like, just brew the beer first and then just a couple of drops until it tastes right. Or we dosed it right then and there. And I'm like, "That's correct." And he's like, "Okay." And so he did the math. He's like, "That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to enter." And I'm like, I felt so responsible. I'm like, you don't win. I'm going to feel bad. And he won.
Yeah.
He was so appreciative. He's like, "You helped me. You told me what to enter, and I won." I'm like,
the funny thing is, we gave him so much shit for months about that because he's like, "It's just my Dortmund with 4 drops of apricot."
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, man?
Oh, no, that's right. Because he wanted to be a peach. It was a peach Dortmunder. And I said, use apricot extract because you can't taste peach. And apricot tastes like peach, and people won't know the difference, and just call it peach. And that's what he won in the nationals with. He was so thrilled.
And we did whole topics about that.
It was a good beer.
That led to entire shows because when we talked about making fruit beers, for years we would just give these suggestions like, well, you can't take fruit out once you put it in. So it was an entire Brewing Network method that clearly came from you, Jamil, and we used Tasty's beer as this delivery method of that lesson.
That was mentioned exactly. That was mentioned many times in the early years, and as a way to make one of those beers and have it be interesting and good, but don't have to commit to 5 whole gallons of it. You just want to enter a competition, do that, right?
To this day, I get people asking about the Tasty lager method.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, so what it is there's the Narcissus, modified Narcissus method, which we had talked about on the Brewing Network for years. And, and this German guy came up with, decades before that. And what's funny is people will, talk about this Tasty method. And Mike asked me, he's like, "Well, how do I make lagers?" I'm like, "Well, do this." And he followed that. It worked out great. And then he repeated it to people. He's like, "This is a good way to do it." He was just sharing that information. And it became the Tasty lager method. And so John and I got this question a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, just 2 weeks ago.
It's just it's great. He was such a celebrity. He was such a beloved guy. He was like Santa Claus, No matter, what the problem is with Santa Claus, people loved him for whatever. And it was, it was just a wonderful thing that, no matter what, people love him for that. People will love him for decades to come. And a big part of that is the Brewing Network. what Justin started and what we've all bought into and what we've all supported. And,
it got him around the world to different conferences. I was in conferences in New Zealand and Ireland with them. And he was that guy that, drew my crowd away, which was
right.
Oh, good. Yeah. Tasty's here. Okay. You can answer your questions.
Well, he's just so approachable. Like, I don't think I've ever met somebody more approachable in my life. Like anybody can walk up to him and he will make you feel like you're a reasonable human being and somebody worth talking to, and somebody, he's excited to meet you despite how excited you are to meet him.
Sure. Yeah, he was always a good friend. And, Northern California Homebrew Fests and Southern California Homebrew Fests, which culminated in the funniest experience of my life when Justin asked me, Palmer, did you eat the whole cookie?
Yeah.
Yes, the cookie would usually come with instructions. How often do you smoke? Are you used to this? Like, is it something that he would often like sometimes kind of check in before you actually take it.
He would never give me a cookie. He never ever gave me a cookie
because he knew you too. He knew you.
He's like, no, you don't want this.
I had an upset stomach, so you said, "Hey, this will help." TLC, good for your stomach. It's like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, it'll take your mind off.
But he usually had two strengths.
Yeah, you forget you have a stomach.
The other day when I was at the collaboration brew with the homebrewers, we were talking about things we're going to miss. And one of the things I said I was going to miss is being at like the Great American Beer Festival or another event like you're talking about, Palmer, and talking to a brewer the next day saying, oh man, I ate a cookie last night. I could tell by the look on their face. I would always go, just like you said, Palmer, I'd always be like, did you eat the whole cookie? And I won't give any names, but the ones who were like, yeah, dude, I ate the whole cookie. I don't know what happened after that. I didn't know where I was. They were never saying they had a bad time, by the way.
Right.
They just had a very different time than they intended to have that night. And I was always like, dude, you never eat the whole cookie. What are you doing?
The amount I've never had a cookie, but the amount of times I've heard that conversation and followed up with, oh God, never again.
So I ate the whole cookie one. I ate the whole cookie one time, and it was on a very important night for me. So I don't know why I did that. I sort of know why I did it. I was with Doc actually, and we were going to see Roger Waters perform The Wall at the Oakland Coliseum.
Cool. Oh, yeah. That's why.
And I've been waiting my whole life to see that show. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. And Roger Waters is on this tour, and Doc and I get tickets, and we rent a limo. We're with Chris Graham, and
you don't remember any of it.
Not a goddamn thing.
Not the second set.
No, nothing. I ate it in the limo, and I didn't move from my seat. And I have proof. I have proof that I don't remember a goddamn thing. I was so bummed that I missed the show that I bought tickets to it a week later. I had to go buy tickets again. I was already upset I had to buy them the first time. They're very expensive, but I was like, I can't miss this show. And now they're coming to San Jose. So I bought tickets, stone sober. In like the first or second song of the concert, a giant airplane flies across the stadium and crashes into a brick wall on stage. And I was with Matt Brindleson. He looks at me and he goes, you don't remember that? You don't remember an airplane flying across an indoor coliseum and landing on stage? And I'm like, not a thing. I don't remember one thing. Tasty's cookie got me. Yeah. That and the 4 beers I had before I ate it, probably.
Right.
But I am going to miss that because, like I said, none of the brewers ever said they had a bad experience. I always just found it funny to find out the ones that you could tell like kind of smoke all the time, so the cookie was no big deal, and the ones that were like, oh, how bad could it be? It's a little cookie.
Yeah. It had been 20 years for me, but fortunately I was at Southern California Homebrew Fest, so where else better to be? It's just like, I came up to Justin. It's like, man, I'm going to go back to the tent and rest. I'm just tired. And he goes, how's your stomach? And he's like, oh, it's better. I ate the cookie. He goes, Palmer, did you eat the whole cookie? It's like, he goes, okay, it's going to get worse.
Like a baby now.
Yeah. And so it's like, oh, that's what's going on. No problem.
But look, that's part of why he's tasty too. Like we said, everything he makes was tasty.
Yeah.
So, and that was part of it.
Now we have the recipe, so we can all make them and then call them tasty tributes. Hand out tributes.
Yeah, You're right. We can still get people stoned. Like he
was always a good friend to hang out with.
Yeah.
He would often have them metered out too. I noticed, like, okay, I busted my foot once, like way back when, like more than 10 years ago. And Mike and Chad were nice enough to be like, I'd been cooped up at home for like a couple of weeks. They're like, you're just stuck at home. We're going to take you out. Mike called me up. He's like, we're going to take you out. I'm like, cool. Thank you. That'd be awesome. So I'm there crutching along. Like they're taking me to bars. We went to like Barclays and Lane Splitter and Triple Rock and the Trappist. And I think, Cato's, I think, is where we ended up. I can barely remember that part, but like they had it metered out. Like they have like a quarter cookie at like almost every like at like kind of like an interval, right? Like this is like Mike is like, this is what keeps me like from where I need to be, kind of thing. And like Chad was right there with him, and I was like barely alive at the end of it. I was just obliterated, right? They're like pouring me back into my home at the end, right? So I'm barely crutching my way up to the house, and like Nicole shows up later and is like, you're barely alive. Like, yeah, sure enough. But like Mike and Chad were fine. Like they had like found a way to like meter it all out somehow, and like appear to be fine, or at least in my memory appear to be fine. But like,
yeah,
so that was really thoughtful of Mike though, to be like, hey, you're stuck here. I'm going to drag you out. Like he would do this with so many people over the years. This is like this early phase of perfecting that, where he would just like bring people out and like be out and about with them, and like
Nathan,
take them up to Russian River, like take them to like 4 or 5 bars or whatever, like, and get to know people and network with other people that way. Like he was super good at that. And I really appreciated that. It was very thoughtful of him to do that for me at that time, but it was more about like what Mike was doing to continue to build that for himself. Really enjoy being out and about, Yeah.
Well, Nathan, I don't think Tasty understood that you only weigh 90 pounds. I think that was part of it.
Right. This is true, actually, Jamil. I think I tried to keep up, and that was part of the problem.
You got these vegans.
Yeah.
No, it was such a good time, though. I have such fond memories of that one from Mike in particular. Like he was always thoughtful in that way. Like if you kind of dropped off the radar for too long, like he would come find you. Like you were saying earlier, Kim. Like he would text you every once in a while and be like, check in,
Yeah.
He would want to come and meet up and see what's up. Like he liked to network and he liked to get to know people. That was also his way of like bringing you back into the fold, and that that was part of his family again. I thought that was.
And I really wanted to point out that when Nathan raises beer, you realize the whole thing isn't in black and white. His beer is in color, and just everything else is black and white.
Yeah. Well, Nate wanted us to
seems to be in color right now.
This is how Nate sees his life. What happened to your eyeball?
I don't know. This is like a benign thing apparently that happens. I don't think I'm going to die tomorrow or anything. But
no, but you might have
one too many cookies.
It's a subconjunctival hemorrhage. He's fine.
Exactly. See, Bevo knows what this is.
Bevo.
I may have had a cookie. Maybe I had a cookie. You never know. Yeah. I don't have any of those anymore. I wish I did. But yes, you're right, Bevo.
This is just how Nate sees life, Jamil. He wanted us to see life how he sees it, in black and white.
Black and white.
It came out better than I thought. This is like weirdly monochrome and then sometimes in color.
Yeah.
Your beer was in color. Yeah.
It's solidly creepy. I will give you that
vibe, brother. It really does.
It does very well.
All right. I want to know what everybody's drinking in Tasty's honor tonight. Jeremy, what were you sipping on today?
Well, in honor of Tasty's love of wet hops, I'm having a Born yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
In a glass.
Perfect. Bevo, did I see a beer in your glass?
Not a beer. I'm drinking sparkling water and bitters.
Uh-oh.
I'm cool.
Bitters and soda, baby. Let's go.
Are you sick? No. Okay.
No, I just couldn't. I didn't really have any. I didn't want to open a bottle of wine because then you have to drink the whole bottle.
No, I just thought you only drink bitters like when you have an upset stomach or something.
No, I just really like them.
Okay. Yeah, it's like cocktail bitters. Apparently that's like the thing where, if you can't drink like a bartender on shift or whatever, you just take soda water, some splashes of bitters and
yeah. Okay.
I've never heard
Nate,
about it.
What are you drinking? Oh, the celebration.
Celebration.
Yeah. Always.
There you go. Very nice. Very
and
nice.
a homebrewed brown ale, which, I mean, towards the end, like Mike really couldn't respond to lots of text messages and stuff, but I started brewing brown ales in the summer just because that's what I wanted to drink and what Nicole wanted to drink. And like, I'd send him messages to be like, I wish you were here tasting this with me, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I would love to get his feedback on his stuff. I know he'd want it, but yeah. So not Janet's brown, but you know, homebrewed brown ale kind of
a brown. Okay.
in the memory and in the honor. Yep.
Kim Shimke, the undead. Are you allowed to drink? What are you having?
Yes, I'm allowed to drink 2 drinks per night, according to my doctor.
Ooh, slow down, baby.
Which is enough to get me drunk, so that's fine. I wish I thought more about it. I wish I did more of a significant choice, but I just pulled like literally the first beer I saw in my fridge, which was the Modern Times Saison.
Okay. Tasty wouldn't be mad about just grabbing the first beer in your fridge. That's all right.
That's true. You let anything I do pass anyway.
Right. JP?
Well, I'm drinking Celebration, baby. It's celebration season.
Nice.
My apologies to every brewery out there in the entire world for the next 2 months, but your boy off that juice. But I did bring it in. I had one in my glass, and I brought one in this the very cool Lagunitas brown paper koozie
nice
thing or whatever. So
beautiful.
I summoned Jeremy with my mojo.
The celebration is tasting great this year. It tastes great every year, but I had it this year too. It's just spectacular.
So good.
And that made a Can You Brewed appearance more than a couple times, I think.
Right. Did you guys clone that, Jamil? Did you nail it?
We nailed everything, please.
No, of course.
Arrogant bastard, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Jamil's convinced they did. Tasty was convinced they didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
No. That was arrogant bastard. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's what JP said was arrogant. Yeah.
Mitch was like, I got to admit, that was seriously close. And I think Tasty just wanted to keep doing it again and again. And that's why he said no, because 5 of the 6 of us all go like, I don't taste it between these 2 beers. Well,
yeah.
He's dead now, so it's cloned.
Yeah, his vote is gone. Not too soon. I'm okay with that one, Jay-Z. What are you drinking tonight, Jay-Z?
First off, I think Bitters has up to 40% alcohol, 80 proof.
Oh,
yeah, but if you mix it, it's like 5.
It's only like a 10% ABV beer.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
5 dashes like
ain't going without the alcohol. I'm just saying.
No.
I'm having our Heretic California IPA, which Tasty really loved. If it was Evil 3 season, that's what I'd be drinking because he loved that beer.
Okay.
He loved that whole process.
He did. Yeah. Teresa Pasuti?
So I would have loved to make a Janet's Brown Ale because that was my first home brew. But I'm drinking a Thirsty Pretzels because that's the closest thing I have to that beer.
Hang on a second. Hang on one
Munich
second.
Dunkel.
Hang on one second. Your very first homebrew was Janet's Brown.
Yes.
And then you became a professional brewer. And now you're a host on the Brewing Network.
I know.
Wow, look at your career. You're making horrible decisions.
It's going down.
Whatever psychic you're going
this way.
Widen your circle of friends.
And it's just beginning. Like, let's just see what happens in the next few years. Like,
Right.
Oh my gosh.
All right, we're keeping Teresa out of the death pool, Jamil and JP. She's not allowed in the death pool. We need to help her trajectory go that way.
Yeah, well, there's no women allowed in the death pool, I feel.
Is that what happened?
Longer life expectancies.
The woman already won it, so that's why.
That's true. Kim already won it. Yeah.
Returned from the dead, so she already won it.
I can be in the death pool. Kim cannot be in the death pool.
She already won it.
Kim
It's a
is
new
escaped
death
from the
pool.
death pool forever.
She bounces. Yeah.
She
died already.
That's true. That's true.
John Palmer, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm having this year's Anchor Christmas Ale.
Oh.
And so very nice. It was donated to us by Anchor and very tasty beer.
I haven't had that beer in years.
No, it's a classic choice for John Palmer, which sort of lends credence to his vibe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems very fitting for you, Palmer, that you're drinking Anchor Christmas.
Yeah.
I always like the old classics. I mean, Celebration is just my go-to beer. It is, if people ask me what's my favorite beer, that's one I always name, because it reminds me of my homebrew and Tasty's homebrew. Just that clean, crisp, hoppy flavor.
So it's old school. It's old school. Yeah. The hopping and malts.
Centennial action. Yeah.
Whenever like through the in the fermenters, they go through and they kiss each fermenter. And that's how everything.
Yeah.
Wouldn't doubt it.
Jeremy, you can bring that if you want to Lagunitas. It's a secret I'm going to give to you. They just kiss the fermenters like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
And Doc, what you drinking?
I started out. I brewed a shallow grave about a month ago, so I started drinking that.
Nice.
And I haven't brewed in a long time, and it turned out pretty well.
Cool.
That was good. Then I moved on to Old Rasputin.
Wow.
Oh. And now I'm drinking an 805. I have a lot of things on tap right now. So
that's the come down beer for
sure. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap us up here. And everyone's you can feel free to log off here when we're done with our toast. Although those of you watching, I'm going to play our Tasty tribute. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, JP put together a string of clips from Tasty, a little bit of a best of. Baron, it's called what?
I call it Tasty Fest.
Tasty Fest. Okay, there we go. Bear in mind, you're going to hear a lot of me, which makes it sound weird at first, but it's JP setting up context because, Tasty was like, he just got in those short and sweet comments. So I'm just saying that because I don't want you to think that it's anything other than a Tasty tribute. It really is.
Well, I got your notes and you wanted more of you in there. So.
Yeah, I was like, some Tasty is fine.
Not enough cowbell.
I also want to let listeners know, especially those of you who are local to California, we will put together kind of a public memorial / tribute to Tasty, and I had intended to do that as quickly as possible, even with COVID. But Tasty had expressed to his family that he wasn't really comfortable with that. He didn't want us putting together something where people couldn't really enjoy beer together and kind of hug it out and be in what he loved about this industry and what he loved about being a part of the Brewing Network. He had expressed to his sons that wasn't really something he liked. So we're going to wait. And I know that everybody kind of needs a way to grieve and that memorials are a way to do that. But I also want to respect Tasty's wishes. I had always intended that there would be a Tasty Fest, a beer festival dedicated to Tasty. And I was going to do that later and sort of a public memorial now. But I'm going to wait. When I found out about Tasty's wishes, I want to respect that. So that's part of why we're doing these shows for you. And we hope that you can find your own ways to grieve and your own ways to make a toast and to make a tribute to him, to your friend, to our friend. And I'm going to wait, when this whole COVID thing gets out of our way, you have my word, there will be a Tasty Fest immediately in the pipeline. And we will donate those proceeds to an appropriate charity. And it will be about all of the things that were important to Tasty about this industry and you listeners and you guys here at the Brewing Network. So I just wanted to say that. I don't want you to think that we're ignoring your need for some way to grieve with us and with him too. It were just his wishes for us to wait. And so we're going to wait. And I'll let you know as soon as I can when we can do that.
That's messed up because if Ruth Bader Ginsburg didn't get her final wishes, he shouldn't either. Goddamn.
That's right.
No, I think that's great because I wouldn't have gone if we had it in the next month or so, and I know a lot of people wouldn't have. It'd be very weird. But it was something like this with a guy who's touched everybody's lives directly and indirectly. You need to have a lot of touching.
Yeah.
He enjoyed touching.
He did. So Just know that it is the first event I will be planning when this is over. It will be fully dedicated to Tasty, but more importantly, dedicated to you all, his friends, his fans, his family, as a way to celebrate his life. He really wanted a celebration, and that's what we'll do. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, even though I don't clearly have a date or an exact plan. But just trust me, this one will happen. I have no other priority higher than that.
That's right. We've forgotten a lot of stuff over the years, but not this.
But not this. This will not go by the wayside.
He did like touching a lot. He'd always give you a hug when he saw you.
Oh, yeah.
Squeeze your side boob.
Yeah. So I remember I got out of my car and he goes, Doc, and he comes over and gives me a big hug. And just then these two teenage boys were walking by and they give us one of those looks.
What is that?
And he looks right. I goes, what's the matter? You ain't never seen Man Love before?
Nice. Yeah. Should we just name it Low Hug Fest, or should we just keep that?
Man Love Fest. Yeah.
Man Love.
We have a perfect name now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tasty Love Fest.
Well, like the Doze crew, for example, has already reached out to me. Robbie over there has reached out to me saying, hey, we really hope you're going to keep Tasty's tasting room going, and we want to keep that going too. And I just was like, are you kidding? I will never do a Spring Brews Fest without Tasty's tasting room. That is just set in stone. But we're going to do even more than that, is sort of what I'm saying. Tasty, we're going to give everybody a chance to celebrate his life. So even if I just change the name of Spring Fest forever to Tasty Fest, I don't know. We'll see. But I just didn't want y'all to feel like we weren't going to, it wasn't on our mind and we weren't going to give you something to, hold on to. All right. Well, I want to thank each of you for being on here today. And I know that Tasty would have been crying in the corner the whole time, just like I would have done if I didn't have to host. He appreciates each of you. And to his fans out there, I mean, as you've heard in countless stories tonight and on the last one, he just loved you guys. And I'm really proud that the Brewing Network gave him this outlet, and I'm proud of him that he embraced it. And I just think it's the coolest thing that he has this incredible legacy. And by the way, he had a legacy even before that. As Jamil said, his family was like the most important thing to him. And if you could have heard his family and friends at that memorial really saying the same things that we say, it's funny that a bunch of his son's high school friends got up to speak because of what impact he had on their life. His son's friends. And he supported them in all of the ways that we've been talking about. He supported us. So he's really been this man for a very long time, since long before we knew him. And Kim, I noticed today, I saw the photo that you put up on Veterans Day on Facebook, and I encourage everybody to go look at that. And it's Tasty. Doc, you'll get a kick out of this if you haven't seen it. It's Tasty filling up his Jeep with fuel.
That's such a good picture.
It is the coolest picture. And he's just, even at that young age, he's got that look. He's got that tasty goddamn look on his face.
You can see it in his face. And he would never have posted that picture himself.
He never would have. I don't think he'd be mad about it, but he never would have.
He gave it to me.
Oh, he did? Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, good.
He gave it to me like 3 years ago.
Okay.
Well, he wouldn't. Like you said, he wouldn't talk about personal stuff or things like that. Him and I were, of course, out drinking. We were at Ool, sitting at the bar drinking, and I got him to open up about his time in Vietnam, which he really didn't talk about that too much. But
yeah,
and funny story, he was on guard duty 3 a.m, in the foxhole, being bored with everybody else, and just coming on foxholes every 50 yards or something, and he was the one with the M203 grenade launcher. So him and his partner in the trench there said, "Hey, let's wake everybody up." So he lets one go at 3 a.m.
Wow!
Kaboom! All the sirens come on. People are starting to shoot. Everything's going on. They had to wake up the colonel and everything.
Oh shit!
He never got caught for it, but they were looking for heads.
Troublemaker, and he's way too unassuming for them to have pointed the finger at him. Yeah, nobody would have thought it was McDole.
That's probably why he had everybody do everything for him from that point forward. The last thing he ever did for himself. From then on, he swore.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. He told me this. That was from that moment. He swore he would never do anything for himself.
Right. He's like, I make bad decisions when I do it myself.
You're in a foxhole, horny as shit. I need to fucking blow something up right now.
All right. Well, normally I would do kind of a big giant toast, but I actually feel like this show itself was the big giant toast. And I don't need to say a whole lot more. I've got his montage put together. I'll leave my camera going so that you folks watching can hear it. And everybody else, you're also welcome to stay or drop out here. But I will do a small toast. Tasty, I think that you have forever changed many more lives than we know and that we will ever know. But you've absolutely changed ours. You have changed the trajectory of our lives, the way we think about life, the way we think about friendships, and definitely the way we think about beer. And I love you for it. And I want to say cheers to Tasty. And thank you, just thank you for everything you've done for us.
Cheers, brother.
It's tasty.
Cheers.
And thanks for Janice Brown. All right. I'm going to play this string of clips. It's about 18 minutes long. I feel like these tributes can go on for the next year, Jamil. You and I are just going to keep chiming in with these things. There's going to be more clips. There will be a Tasty soundboard that is going to be of epic proportions. Thanks to you all for being a part of this. I appreciate each and every one of you. And listeners, here you go. JP, you got something else?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Peter Simons. I want to give a shout out to Susie, to Brendan Abbott, to Neil Spake, to Steve Thanos. These were all listeners that reach out to me, and then I, in turn, in true Tasty form, asked them to do work for me.
Nice.
So Bev helped out as well. So everybody contributed clips. This was very much a communal thing, although I did 90% of the work. But yeah, so it was everyone was really very happy to sit and listen to shows, and I got more comments on just the shows really than I did clips, which was a little annoying, but it was cool because it gave people an excuse to go back to like 2015, 2012 and listen to these shows. It was it was really neat.
You asked people to help you, so you did 100% of the work. Don't be modest.
You
did 100%. Not
0-hour work week by Jamil Zainchef.
100%, brother.
He would have liked that tribute from you, JP. Yeah, he really would have. All right, folks. I'm happy to see your faces. I can't wait, and I mean this sort of, kind of. I mean it. For us to be back in the studio together. I miss you all and these shows.
Yeah, me too.
The most healing thing I think will be when we get to do some stuff like that here at the Brewing Network. And
we're gonna hug.
It's what we're gonna hug. It's gonna be a big, long, low hug.
It's gonna be awkward.
I'm gonna fill your gas tank, baby.
All right, here is Tasty. Thanks to you all. We'll be back as soon as COVID allows us. Plus, I think we got some more Zoom shows coming up too. So stay tuned to the Brewing Network. And Tasty, this is for you, my dude.
So we got an exciting show for you today. It's our holiday end of the year show. So that basically means if you were looking for beer information on today's program, only tune in when Tasty speaks.
Otherwise, they're going to get a shit about information.
That's right. The rest of us are just going to have. Man, I would like to listen to his old man talk about brewing beer on that icebreaker. That would be some good stories.
That's probably like prison hooch or something.
Yeah,
they
we're
probably
talking
stole some sugar from the kitchen and
right.
But they probably had the best brewing water available.
It's glacier water.
Yeah.
Our neighbor grew up in a military family, and his dad made beer and kept the bottles in the showers.
Right.
One day his mom was on the shitter, and these bottles started exploding while she was in there.
Scared the shit out of her.
Yeah, she
took a glass shower.
She couldn't leave.
It's like an enema.
Wow.
She could not, leave the bathroom. She was too scared.
No, that's a good home brewing story there. I like that.
You get to look at your yeast, which is really cool. On top of very informative, because it's cool to see the things that make the alcohol.
Yeah, you can see those. You can see those that had sex.
Those are your buddies.
Guys have a smile on their faces.
Yeah. You toke up on that bong. You spent hours looking at that microscope.
I was wondering why Tasty's beers are so good. It's on that microscope, man.
Yes. Well, I'm not going to be it that way. Please. Somebody's going to be an adult around here. It's your turn.
The BN Winter Brews Festival is coming together very, very nicely. We've got some extra features going on. Tasty is going to have his own tasting room at the BN Winter Brews Festival. Right. Tasty's tasting room. And we're going to be serving homebrew, too.
That's going to be homebrew all the time. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, if... You know what happened? Yeah. If people occupied out front one of our festivals, I can guarantee you, I would bet what would happen on it. Tasty would go around feeding them his homebrew.
Exactly.
That's his thing. Like he'd be like, "Hey, don't worry, I got your back."
I'd be chopping it up with him, and pretty soon,
he'd be carrying around his little Scotty of Janice Brown and feeding the
masses.
That's right. Beer. And my version of Tasty's APA got a silver and best in class. The recipe advice I've picked up from Jay-Z and Tasty has directly contributed to my success. And other information from the rest of you guys, even JP.
What's the deal? We were in this one place. I think we were in there together, actually, and I was at Sydney. That they pick up the glassware at 10 o'clock at night or something like that.
I'll give you plastic.
Cups. Yeah,
the old Frankie's. Wow.
Yeah, Frankie's. That's where I met the lovely Nicole.
You did meet the lovely Nicole. Give her a shout out, Tasty.
Hey, Nicole. It's Tasty.
Okay.
In 2017, and you know that Jill the Thrill and Tasty have always had a little special connection. So
whether you like it or not.
That's
and I'm really hopeful, Tasty. I really invite you. I hope you'll come and do a session and share your love and your joy, because there's really no guy better than a good coach and a good friend to homebrewing than all of you guys, and
especially Tasty.
Tasty has that special touch.
He does.
He does touch.
Well, whoa. You mean the low hug? We're off the tracks.
No. Remember, it's the reach around under boob grab.
Wow, that's a new move.
More specific.
Tasty. Wait, did you just ask Tasty to speak at the event?
I would be very grateful if he would come and do a session.
I could do that for sure.
Would you do that?
Cool.
I'd be super.
I'd love to do that.
Thank you, Tasty.
What are the dates?
Dude, my lips are fucking numb.
Oh, not good.
Mike's beer has consistent.
Jamil wasn't even involved in brewing that. So how was I going to know anything? And he was just scuba diving or in some shit.
He had to wait for me.
He was doing male prostitution or something.
Right.
He was good at that, but he's even better at this brewing beer.
Second nominee for douche of the year, our very own Jamil Zainashev.
Yes.
Now, why?
I'm not clapping.
Now, here's why.
What's this about? Come on.
I'll tell you. Jay-Z went on to a certain video podcast or whatever and gave the official release of his brewing company on another fucking show.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That is a low blow.
Think of the name.
What is piking down to the Dusty?
That means you're dying. You're going to pass away. He piked off to the Dusties. Is literally a pike is to go or walk or travel, and the Dusties is the graveyard. So piking off to the Dusties is you're dying.
It's over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Point being, it was evolved enough where you could have a code language based off.
Yeah,
of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I want to make Tasty a T-shirt that says
"Piking off to the Dusties."
Yeah.
If you go,
is that good? I'll listen to Jay-Z go nuts anytime.
Twice,
man. In fact, the thing is, I hear that it's happened at competitions before too, kind of judging in the back room. The judge is not staying on track, whatever. Did he flip out this week at all? Were you around, Tasty? Any NHC?
Yeah, him and I had words.
You guys fought together?
Yeah, I had a shouting match with him.
God damn it! And I didn't mic that.
Oh, that would have been a doozy.
What'd you guys fight about?
Well, I don't know. They wanted the the mini best of show entries or something. They wanted them like immediately, and I said, okay, here's the deal. When you think you're about 15 minutes away from wanting them, give me the heads up, and
because you're in charge of getting all this stuff up to the rooms where they're judging.
So just give me a 15-minute notice and we'll get him up there.
Okay.
Well, next thing I know, he's at this cellar door. Where's the beers? Where's the beers?
Yeah.
This is all Joe said. I got really upset. Like,
because he didn't give you the 15?
Yeah, I never got the 15. All I got was a 0, right? And he was like off the charts,
Oh, he was?
Yeah. So I was yelling at him like I was serious. And I kind of was.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking at the look in his face and it started laughing.
Because he couldn't believe you were yelling back at him?
He's thinking at Fran, and he couldn't believe I was yelling back.
And so did you guys, did he just turn around and walk away? Or did you guys end up smiling and you hugged it out?
Yeah. By the time we got to yell, here comes the beer cycle passing. We got to get out of the way, Like, you guys aren't helping at all,
I can't wait for the day I can afford just a mic you got. Next week, Winterfest. Push will be there.
Yes.
This is Push. Tasty will be there with his entourage. Tasty's tasting room.
And you can meet me.
Is open. That's right. Tasty's tasting room will be open.
Yes.
He will be available to be met between 1 and 1:02. Other than that, you have to take a nap.
Right. Other than that, you'll have to speak to his personal representative, Shat.
Are we going to have a Tasty booth?
We are. Tasty's tasting room.
No, just for him.
Just the...
Yeah, it's a dunk tank. In Nevada, Jen's Brad.
The chair and a card table. Got his flyers out.
And a chessboard.
I don't know what.
Hey, thanks for buying the book.
All right. He'll be signing blank journals. You can write the book yourself.
Yes.
All right. You're a good sport, Tasty.
Yeah. But they may get a better offer.
Yeah.
I'm like that way too.
Oh, honey, I'll give you an
pencil
offer.
me in or something.
I'll give you an offer.
So is this acceptable to pee at a urinal, no hands?
Yes.
As long as you're not, like a rain bird.
That's what I think too.
Yeah.
It's like a dog off leash. As long as it's under control, what does it matter?
I mean, it's not. Yeah.
Oh, in Estonian, you say
in Estonian, cocks taste good.
That's how you say 12 months?
Yeah. So there's a video on YouTube where you can go see some chicks.
Oh, yeah.
Some local Estonian chicks telling you that 12 months.
So how many months are there in a year?
That's amazing.
Tastes good, they say. Yeah.
This brewcaster brought a keg of homebrewed IPA to a Christmas party, but didn't bring CO2. They managed to drink the beer by spooning it out with a ladle. Who was it?
Spooning.
Tasty.
That's right. It was Tasty McDole.
The homebrew IPA gives it away.
Yeah, that's right.
But that was kind of a gimme.
It was. I thought so too.
The spooning
someone
part
got it wrong already. Tasty, how the hell do you show up without CO2?
Well, I had everything laid out and I just forgot it. I get there all ready to go. I got my bag of cookies. I got my keg of 9% double IPA and everybody's ready to rock. And oops. It's just how it looks on their faces. There's like 8 guys and we do this every year, right? And they're going like, you mean we're not going to have any double IPA this time? And I was more like confused about, how did I forget that?
Yeah.
And they're all like concerned, like, oh my God, is this going to mess things up?
So whose idea was it to ladle it?
I don't know. I just thought about it a little bit, like, we're going to get this beer out of there somehow. So I just let the pressure off, took the lid off, saying, looked around a little bit. Who's got a ladle? And,
nice. I like it, Tasty.
Yeah, worked out great.
You can't disappoint.
We always drink the whole thing anyway, so it didn't really matter if we abused it a little bit.
All right, so Tasty, you did an amazing job on
thank you
this
very
one.
much. Thank you very much.
It can't get any closer than this.
When I strike up the flame, I always try to apply my craft. So, if I was as good at a lot of other things as I am about brewing beer, I'd be a phenomenal whatever. Anyway, when I went to make this beer, I said, well, I got to really do this right because I can't
Right. You
no time to
get no slack on this one.
Have a brewing accident of any sort.
We all love this
or improvising.
Or any sort of poetic license in terms of
no poetic.
Deviating from the recipe, which I get my balls busted for one
trouble. Yeah.
Which I don't do anymore.
Is it like the ugly owner hot wife award?
It is because he makes good beer because he has a hot fiance.
Oh my God, she's gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
She's seeing that asshole.
And every time he looks at me, you go, oh yeah. All right, what else?
And then to start out at the beginning, I had about half a mason jar of white lightning moonshine.
Wow, were you late for something?
Who made this?
And we were drinking that beer, and we said we should do something, right?
Beautiful.
It was Tasty and Jamil and me.
I think I said we should do a beer because his beer was in planning.
Tasty brought it up.
Right.
Oh yeah, the big brewery wasn't open then. So
just in planning.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I was working on it. Yeah,
so we knew it was going to be ready about
in a few months. Yeah.
Did you discuss beer styles right then and there in your drunken Winterfest state, or did you just say we should?
No, it didn't matter then.
Right.
Yeah, it's just you know these guys. They both said hoppy. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
We're going to do like an Imperial IPA, triple IPAs, and it's going to be called Evil Cubed.
Oh, nice.
There's three of us, and
Tasty, you're in on this
Evil
too.
Cube thing. Yeah. And
it was Mike's idea.
Right.
Yeah. I'm the producer.
You're going to be carrying the grain bags, I'm sure.
I have a team for that.
Yeah.
This is a Heretic brew house. It's made for good beer. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Earlier on, I was asking them, asking these guys what hops they wanted. Tasty didn't respond, and
well, I didn't know what the beer was.
Well, let's just say we're all going to be that age one day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Great.
Hey, I saw your dad's ass. Come on.
Yeah, my dad's looking all right, right?
Yeah.
Now, the Dedication to Personal Success Award.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, that's good. All right, good job, Push.
No further explanation required there.
No. All right. Now, this is one of those awards that you don't really need nominees for. There's one clear winner. It's like an honor. It's like an honor, like when you get the Lifetime Achievement, they don't do nominees, right? They just, and that is what this is. Let me play the clip, and you'll get the whole idea, and you'll see our very deserving winner of the Dedication to Personal Success Award.
Yeah, you had Vinny's beer there, right? The Janice Brown. You're going to Janice Brown, right? It's his Bad Leroy Brown. It's a Janice Brown inspired beer. Eric and I were brewing when we brewed the Janice Brown. Janice Brown. I like it. It's got a little bit of Janice in it.
That was
Wait a minute. Janice. When the Janice Brown was poured in there, it was kind of unique.
Yeah.
It was dark.
We'll definitely brew the Janets again.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Janice Brown. I'm on a tour here. I call it a mini rollout. Janice Brown. And you get to meet me. It's really good, isn't it? That's the first time the beer has been poured outside the pub. Janice Brown, people that hadn't got to try it yet or that didn't make their way up to Santa Rosa got to try it there. Janice Brown. I'll be at the Trappist next week. I'll let you know when. Janice, the beer that I brewed at Russian River is very, very similar to what I brewed. Janice Brown. I'll bring my entourage. Yeah.
Tasty McDole, ladies and gentlemen. The Dedication to Personal Success Award.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, that was from one show, Tasty. Which is weird, but
I was going to say, maybe 2 or 3 episodes you could probably pick up on. I mean, in all fairness, I was prompted for my response.
Right.
Yeah, there might have been a little bit of repeating in there, but probably not too much.
Right.
I think Moscow deserves an award for finding all those clips.
Yeah, actually, Moscow scoured the shows for me. The poor bastard spent hours. Well, you can punch him.
No, that's great. Wow.
Yeah. The Dedication to Personal Success, Tasty. Good job.
Yeah, thanks. I deserve it. All right. I'd like to thank Vinny, of course.
Okay, of course.
Yeah. For what? For the Janice Brown.
But it will remain in your intestinal tract for periods of time.
Longer than other foods. Yeah, right. I heard that.
I've heard that about black pepper too.
And it gives you it gives you bad breath. If you like
I have
people
that
don't eat meat have better breath for sure.
Right.
Like they has great breath. I kiss him all the time.
Right, JP?
I don't like it.
Does your girlfriend like it?
The girls love it.
Getting more missionary style sex now with they're willing to look at you.
Yeah, you don't have to turn everybody around anymore.
Still no eye contact, but yes, face to face.
I see. All right, you can get all of these up.
Kim put the boobs on, or the tats on the boobs.
The tats on the boobs, yeah. You did a good job.
Where was I? Wasn't available for that? What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know.
Way to go, Kim.
No.
Now here's where my dilemma is.
I don't want to give an F because
Tasty would give me an F.
I love Susan.
It'll come as no surprise that your fourth and final nominee for the 2010 Peer of the Year is Janet's Brown from Russian River Brewing Company.
What was that again? I've actually never heard it. What was that again? Where did we get this?
There's another category. You have Vinny's beer here, right? The Janice Brown. You're drinking the Janice Brown, right? It's his Bad Leroy Brown. It's a Janice Brown inspired beer. Eric and I were brewing when we brewed the Janice Brown. Janice Brown. I like it. It's got a little bit of Janice in it. I'm a big fan of this. Janice. When the Janice Brown was poured in there, it's kind of unique.
We'll definitely brew the Janets again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Janice Brown. I'm on a tour here. I call it a mini rollout. Janice Brown. And you get to meet me. It's really good, isn't it? That's the first time the beer has been poured outside the pub. Janice Brown, people that hadn't got to try it yet or that didn't make their way up to Santa Rosa got to try it there. Janice Brown. I'll be at the Trappist next week. I'll let you know when. Janice, the beer that I brewed at Russian River is very, very similar to what I brewed. Janice Brown. I'll bring my entourage. Yeah.
Thank God I'm never going to actually achieve anything. And someone's not going to get to poke fun of me for something so awesome.
I know.
Well done, Tasty.
Yeah. What a bunch of dicks. Tasty gets a great
you
achievement.
You get to see me and my entourage. Come on. Come on. That's really not me at all, but it's funny.
But you said it.
Yeah, I did say it.
I'm surprised we didn't introduce the tumbler as the Janice Brown inspired beer.
Hey, wait a minute. Some people thought it was.
Oh.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, Janice Brown was the first brown ale ever invented, so it would stand to reason.
So not everybody's making a Janice Brown.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I mean, seriously, the guy has this great achievement. What do? We just make fun of him for it. We piss on him. Welcome to the BN still, Tasty.
No,
we love having you.
I like it.
All right. So those are your...
I can tell you a story about how I developed the Janice Brown Ale. I had no idea what I was doing like in the mid-90s, right? I think I hadn't been to any homebrew club meetings. My only outside contact was the homebrew supply store, More Beer. And but I was trying to clone commercial beer. I think it was Full Sail Amber Ale. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know that they were using English yeast. So I started it's got some dark malt, so I'll get, ask the homebrew supply store what makes the beer dark, stuff like that. I think I knew a little bit more than that then, but not too much more. So anyway, I started on this journey and I start adding these ingredients and I take it in and I have Olin, he would taste the beer for me and we'd talk about it. And he goes, well, if you want it to be sweeter, you're going to have to add some more crystal malt. So I'd add, I said, some crystal 40. So pretty soon I'm pretty much on my own. I'm like, tweaking this and I'm making a batch like at least once a month, if not, sometimes twice a month, an amazing amount of this brown ale. But what I do is I'd bring it into More Beer on Friday nights and share it with customers that would come in. More beer I had earlier, I'd get there. That way because they would drink it. And of course, the backstory is about, my wife, Janet, would try the beer. She'd be my tester, right? Because I come in every other Friday night, it seemed like. And she'd be watching TV or something. I'd bring it in and you're like, here's the next batch. And I'd always have a glass of the previous batch too. Because there was always some reason to change it, right? So we would drink it, and of course, again, I was sort of like in a vacuum, and we go like, oh yeah, I think it's getting better, it's getting worse, or it's not as dark as it was before. We need to add more of this or that. So anyway, wasn't like through any scientific, or I didn't have like any good book from like Ray Daniels has in terms of how to design a beer. I was just kind of like wandering around, and I ended up basically with a recipe that's, in some segment of the flavor wheel, if you will. People say it's a great recipe. And again, I have to say it's just a piece of the wheel that you don't get to drink that often and you miss it. When you get it, you like it. It's not, you could change that recipe quite a bit and make it better, I'm sure. It's just happens to come out that a lot of people learn about it through my own, accomplishments. But the Brewing Network obviously had a lot to do with that too. Russian River and all this other stuff.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your Tasty tribute. What a great!
I think it was a great tribute, and really captured a lot of what he meant to all of us and the family that we have at the Brewing Network.
Yeah. JP, that ending, the choice of that as the.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was, man. It's hard, and like we've talked about for the last hour or two or whatever. Tasty was sort of easy to think about, but hard to define. And so how do you sort of cut together a life like that and hold it up as like an example of who this person was, serious and funny and caring and irreverent and all that kind of stuff at the same time. Plus, he didn't fucking say much of anything. It's fucking hard.
It's the complete opposite of what we'll say about you, JP. That's what you're saying. Totally different.
Yeah, it'll be 18 minutes of silence. I'm like, this is what we wanted.
Yeah, the tribute we wanted. It's a lot of pressure, JP. And it was very, very well done. And Jamil, summed it up very well. And you know what? It is just a facet of Tasty. It's just a piece of Tasty too. So you did a great job, showing that. And we'll find more. We'll unearth more clips over the years. But I was really just impacted by the end. What a great, him just describing, Janet's Brown. That really kind of sums up his beer legacy to me. The way he cared about that recipe, the way he thought about it, the way he sought out help to make it better from Janet, and from homebrewers at More Beer.
Well, just the awesome. The best part is how he thought about it, right? Where what really stuck out to me in that clip was, it's just a part of the flavor wheel that you're missing, that you're not getting enough of. And that's why, like this beer, you can change it and make it better, which is, a very humbling thing to say for a guy who's had his beer, made by one of the best breweries in the entire universe, Russian River, right? Like, you can change this beer and make it better. It's just, you just don't see this thing all the time. And that's why you kind of like it.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong, but he's also sort of like under not giving himself enough credit for having that mind that we talked about earlier, of knowing that the flavors are good and they blend well together, and getting a lot of help from the community as well too. Like, don't be afraid to reach out to people constantly to get feedback for your beer. Don't be afraid.
A very fitting tribute. Proud of you, JP, and your team of minions. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll be sending that clip alone on to the family, because as you can imagine, and I had some of that too, just hearing the voice, right, kind of brings you back to being in a room with him. And I think that's important in this process when you can kind of do that. All right. I'm going to get us out of here. We'll be back with more sessions. The Brewing Network is going nowhere, if for nothing else, because that's what Tasty would have wanted us to do. So we'll be back with more fun and more antics and more interviews and more knowledge. Just, stick with us. And again, thanks to Tasty. Thanks to each of you for doing the show.
Cheers again.
Our pleasure.
Okay, y'all. Yeah. Cheers. Hide that I'm empty. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Take care.
Janice Brown.